Get started. All right. Steve Jones,
Here.
Matt Wells,
Here.
Stephanie McKinney,
Here.
Matt Bilkey,
Here.
Jeff Larimore.
Here.
Sean French. Sean French. Bruce Palin,
Here.
Aaron Sims,
Here.
Travis Tushane,
Here.
Myra McShane.
Here. Back here.
Good to go.
All right, we'll go ahead. We're calling the Indiana Emergency Response Commission, February 9th. 2026. Form. So we'll start down on the agenda. Reports and updates by the chair. Typically, I just outline some of the notable chemical spills in the state. And I'll go through a few of those that we've had in the last quarter. Jasper, Indiana had a pickup truck that lost chemical containers in a roadway. Spill prompted traffic alert in the area, and chemicals involved were not widely reported, it says. So, and that's one of the things on a pickup truck that has 55-gallon drums. Typically, they're not marked with anything unless it's on the containers themselves. Jasper chemical container spill. Let's see here. Let's see, it's the next one. Jefferson had a significant hydrochloric acid spill. They lost approximately 5,000 gallons of hydrochloric acid from a tractor trailer at the steel plant. Basically, they had everybody shelter in place around in a half mile in all directions. The order was lifted about 30 minutes once the air quality was confirmed. Clark County Health Department performed the air quality assessment, and no injuries were reported. Fort Wayne had a nitric acid spill November 18th, 2025. They lost 350 gallons of nitric acid, and it was spilled at the Webb Chemical Warehouse located in Fort Wayne. Again, they evacuated everybody in a half mile in all directions, and had protect in place. Looks like they brought in a hazardous waste chemical company to vacuum the remaining acid. Benzene leak in Hammond, Indiana. Looks like they were able to divert the leak and contain it. It was isolated. Hammond Fire Department reported monitoring for benzene levels, which were brought under control. Valparaiso had a sodium hydroxide spill. Basically, they didn't catch it, but it overfilled the container and lost a large quantity of sodium hydroxide. Let's see here. There was another one notable. Whiting BP refinery pipeline, they had a leak. This one could have been significant. And anybody know on the hazmat end of it? Do you know anything about that leak that BP had down in Whiting, Indiana?
No, sir.
It involved a mixture of gas and liquid, but then it turned into benzene and hydrosulfide vapors. And I don't know that any of these people reported anything to us. So that's really all that I have as far as just chair updates. We've had some chemical spills in Indiana, and that's what all of our emergency planning is for. And the training that goes on in the state is to be able to handle these, come out with nobody injured. You know, we might have to, have people protect in place or evacuate, but, in these instances, nobody was injured. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the review and action of the October 24th meeting minutes of last year of 2025. Everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes? Yes. Could I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Oh.
I'll make that motion.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 24th. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Right. Second. All right. Okay, the review and action of the LAPC roster appointments and,
The voting.
oh, yeah, that's right. We got it. Okay,
Steve Jones,
appreciate that.
You're-
Yes.
Matt Wells,
Yes.
Stephanie McKinney,
Yes.
Matt Bilkey,
Yes.
Jeff Larimore,
Yes.
Sean French,
Yes.
Bruce Palin,
Yes.
Aaron Sims,
Yes.
Travis Touchain,
Yes.
Myra McShane.
Yes.
Thank you. Now the review and action of the LAPC roster appointments and removals. On that. Everybody had time to look at the roster appointments. We don't have to vote on this, do we?
There was one out a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Everyone on there.
This is a votable thing. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead. And then, any comments before we take a vote? All right. Think about it.
To approve?
A second.
Okay.
Steve Jones,
Yes.
Matt Wells,
Yes.
Stephanie McKinney,
Yes.
Matt Bilkey,
Yes.
Jeff Larimore,
Yes.
Sean French,
Yes.
Bruce Palin,
Yes.
Aaron Sims.
Yeah.
Travis Touchain,
Yes.
and Myra McShane.
Yes.
All right, next on the agenda is the fiscal report. Matt?
Yeah, so for fiscal year 26, appropriation total was 125,992.30, including employee benefits and salary. And the other big one is the Has Connect, which is $54,590. So total funds we obligated were 90,416.86. So left a balance of about 35,575.44 cents. So it's been about 90,416.86. It's pretty on par, it looks like, for every normal year, it looks like. So,
Have any questions on that? Next on the agenda is the facility report. Lauren?
Yes, so currently we have a total of 7,856 facilities in Indiana and Has Connect. 7,139 of them are active and 717 of them are inactive. As of this morning, 2,366 annual reports have been completed this year. 954 of them have been initiated but not completed. 3,830 facilities have not initiated this year's report. Since January 1st of this year, we've collected $174,550. And we've had 2 incidences since our last meeting. And for a recap for last year, 6,850 annual reports were completed. 16 annual reports have still been initiated but not completed for last year. We collected about $798,810 last year. The system currently shows that we've collected $838,130 due to checks and credit card payments that were not entered for prior years. And from 2019 to 2024, and we had 20 incidents last year.
So was this typical then, years past about the numbers of reports that were?
I would say from what I'm looking at so far, where people just have forgotten facility wise to do reports, or for whatever reason, credit card or check, it just didn't get entered
Okay,
prior.
to prior year, so now,
Correct. So in the system, so we did collect that money that was saying it's missing, but we just now have entered it in the system.
so that 838,130 then, includes those prior years. That goes into the legal fund? Is that where that goes?
No, I believe that money would still be distributed to the facilities. When we sent the numbers to,
Distributed to the facilities or the LEPCs?
yes, yeah, the revenue.
To the LEPCs?
Yes.
Not the
Yeah.
facilities?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's what I was like.
Yep.
Kind of threw me for a minute. If we were refunding money.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, clear, thanks. It's,
I know this is a
go ahead.
awkward question. How many facilities report in the state of Indiana total, do you think?
I don't think there's facilities that are not reporting. So it could be a lot higher. And there's been a lot of confusion from facilities on what the requirements are. So I have been trying to educate them with that, providing the documents that are online, talking them through how to do the actual report. So I think there's actually more than what is being currently reported in HasConnect.
You mean you think you have facilities that are reporting that don't need to report?
I think there's facilities that aren't reporting.
Exactly, okay.
That, because there's been instances where they've reached out and had no idea about this, and then they had to go back years prior to get that reporting caught up.
Yeah.
And about how many people are reporting, how many businesses are reporting total through the state?
Currently, there's almost 8,000 in the system,
Okay.
but a little over 7,000 are active. Those inactive
Okay.
ones could just be they're out of business, they've changed locations, or they're under the reporting threshold.
Okay.
Yeah, and is there any value in trying to get those inactives sorted? I know we had a facility in our county, up in Pike Township. It was a racing company, and they had the environmental health and safety manager, when he joined this racing company, thought that they would have hazardous chemicals and we would need to report. So he started, and then when he got into the business, he's like, we really don't have any hazardous chemicals. And so he's sitting there with his name, and he's kind of in limbo, and he shows up on our list in HasConnect, but he's not. And we've talked with him and said, you need to go in and try to get removed or whatever, just so, because it shows up as an inactive facility. And so we're trying to, clear our books so that everybody who is in HasConnect for our county is an active paying facility, and we don't get distracted by seeing these facilities that are there, but,
Yeah, 'cause there are facilities in the system that are under the threshold that voluntarily report
mhm.
just to do it in case they go over, or in prior years, they were over, now they're not, but just want to keep it up. So far, I've not found anything in the system that will differentiate between those unless I open up each inactive facility to see what reason they chose.
What is the process to remove yourself from that list?
So they would have to contact me. We have instructions online on how they can be inactive, but if they want to be like completely out of the system, I would have to delete it for them. But I try not to delete facilities unless
Just
it's
keep moving toward, yeah.
absolutely necessary.
That's a tough one to monitor.
It is, yeah, but it's
Every
a
day,
tougher
they
question,
can go
not
in and change
knowing what we do.
That's all the time.
Still changes that are.
Change.
Yeah.
Opportunities change.
And, a lot of it, at least whenever I was the fire marshal in different areas, he might be under the threshold this year, but next year, their profit margin is made somewhere else with some other chemical. And they automatically change over to that the next year, but then the next year, the economy changes and now that has taken their business another direction, and there's a lot of variables that go into it, so.
And I am also trying to track when they state they're under the threshold, so then I can put a note in the system so that when any admin has access, they can go in and see it. Because like next year they could go back to active, but if I go back, I'll be like, oh, they're missing this year's report. They need to go in and do it. But if I have a note there.
Right, that they were really excused. They didn't need to.
Yeah.
It is complicated, both for the facilities and for the LEPCs, because if we don't see that note, we'll be like, oh, well, wait a minute, they didn't report.
Yeah,
in
like
this year,
reference to your facility where they thought they were going to be and now they're not.
Yeah.
I always tell them, just go inactive, and
Yeah.
for them, it would be reporting exemption because they're under that threshold.
Yeah, I don't know how we find the ones that should be reporting and aren't. I know in talking around the state, we had some hospitals, most hospitals now have some kind of on-site generator. And most of them have more than 10,000 pounds of diesel. And so many of the facilities weren't aware that they needed to report that.
It's a requirement, but there's no mechanism to put boots on the ground to cover Indiana to make
Exactly.
sure people are reporting. Or it's just it's tough because it's a requirement, but there's no mechanism to put a boot on the ground to audit. So,
No, I mean, most of them that we found they had an accident.
yeah,
And then we show up and it's like, first thing we do is look to see, are they in, Has Connect now? And if they're not, I know, working with some of the fire marshals in some of the townships, we would, they would contact us. And I think now, I don't know if it's Mobilize or whatever, a couple of the fire departments are using in Marion County, I think they are reaching out to us if they see a facility, but there's still, I remember we had one years ago, they sold car wash cleaning products. That's all, car wash cleaning, hydrofluoric acid.
it
Yeah,
was my
great.
car wash. I was the reason that they put the NFPA 704 symbols at Mike's car washes.
Yeah,
Because-
but it's car wash. It's just car wash stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's pretty nasty acid. too.
Yeah, it is.
So.
All right. Next on the agenda, discussion of the process for merging counties.
So I've been working with Sean Wooding, who is our legal advisor, to put together an organizational process for counties to merge, because we have several counties are wanting to merge with a different county. They either have no facilities with the EHS in their county, or they have very few, and they don't see the benefit of participating in the work, in this. So I put together an organizational agreement for county local emergency planning committees. More like a legal document or a legal agreement. This has already gone through Sean, and so he's approved. This is the final product that we came up with. This is to help guide the counties that want to merge. And I also, to accompany this, I came up with a local emergency planning committee guidelines for merging. This is something that I think the IRC needs to go through and vet and scrutinize and decide if this could be a working process for a guideline. And Sean wanted me to just emphasize that this would be a guideline. It's not something that's going to be imposed on the counties that want to merge, but that it could be a starting point for a process for counties to merge and guidelines to utilize to do that. But this is something that I have mostly just done. This is me right now. Sean has seen it, but he's not making changes to it or very few changes. Because we both thought this needs to go through the IERC. And that you all need to discuss this and help think this through before we actually put it out to any of the LCCs as being guidelines. Coming from the IRC, obviously. So this is something that needs to be vetted and approved by you. So I have 4 counties right now that are really wanting to merge. Brown County really wants to merge with another county. They have not talked with anyone, I don't think, about merging. But they wanted to know who we would recommend. Personally, myself, Johnson County is who I would recommend because Johnson County is always on time with their reports. And they know what they're doing with their reports and they're right next to Brown County. And I think that that could possibly be a good match. And then also Scott County, I believe some of their firefighters have reached out to Gavin Hebner of Clark County and actually asked if they could possibly be merged with them.
Have you asked Sean what he thought about us recommending another county? I don't want to get caught up as one county merger starts and now there's a complaint that they're not getting along and that they said that the IERC recommended it. It's, to me, I want to leave local things local.
I can't say anything verbatim what Sean said. I think what he implied to me is that the LEPCs should talk.
Yeah.
And first, but Brown County just, they don't know who to talk to. So I think they were trying to get some kind of guidance. And I did not want to tell them either, and I have not.
Yeah, and I
told them
don't,
anything.
I have open discussion, but I don't think we should be recommending which county they need to go with.
Sounds like we're matchmaking.
They know who the counties are because the counties are on next door to them.
It'd make more sense for 2 local counties to approach the IRC and say, hey, we'd like to merge, and
Yeah.
do you approve that, and how do we do that?
I mean, I'm thinking that most counties that are going to merge with an adjacent or adjoining
Right.
county. I can't imagine
You'd hope.
Brown saying we're going to merge with Allen, Yar Lake. But I know in the Indiana code, there's a little bit of language about merging or 2 counties wanting to work together. Are we still just talking about 2 counties, or are we talking about, it could be more than 2 counties? Could it be?
Just for this right now, we're only talking about 2 counties merging together.
Okay,
I don't know what'll take place in the future.
sure.
If the state ends up putting everyone
Well-
in districts or not, I don't know. But right now, this is just basically 2 counties that want to merge. You know, the Indiana code speaks very briefly about it.
Mhm.
I wish Sean was here because this is really.
Sean's online.
Oh, is he online?
Yep.
Does Sean want to make a comment on that? Because I don't really want to.
Yeah, so I mean, this whole process, I think Melissa has just been kind of proactive in kind of trying to flush out what a county could do if they needed help and they weren't able to operate on their own and needed to try to merge. There really wasn't any guidance or discussion on what they could do. Like you guys were just talking about, the Indiana code is very brief when it discusses it, and there are no guidelines and there are no rules other than a few very bare statutes. So I mean, we never talked about being like a matchmaker. We specifically were, this is a process where the county is coming to you guys or to DHS to help facilitate the process of merging, but we are not the initiator or the director of any type of merge. So far, it has only been contemplated that 2 merge together. Obviously, I know there's been discussion about larger LEPCs, but right now we were only working off of 2 at a time. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of guidance on what the merging would look like other than a few specifics in the statute. So this was just her way of trying to help those LEPCs, because as you guys know, the goal is to get every county to have an LEPC or be covered by an LEPC.
True. I just, so we had, Melissa and I had some back and forth emails years ago. I think Orange and Washington County merged, and all I just know is they merged. I never really saw all the particulars about how the money was spent or who made the decision, and so I'm taking, probably you weren't able to find many documents related to that.
We do not have any documents with IDHS that I could find.
Okay.
The only documents that I saw at all was what you sent to me, and it was just something that was very brief in a meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Saying that they had merged, and then I think at one point saying that it had resolved, like it didn't last very long. I don't even think it lasted a year.
Right.
Probably the main reason for that is an agreement on money. I think that everything always comes down to, you know, where's the money, honey? You know?
Sure.
And where does it go? Because even with this, like I have talked to Gabe and Hebner, and he's, you know, brought up the issue of the money, you know, the money that the LEPC is holding that wants to merge with another county, where does that money go? Does that money then be transferred over to the board LEPC? You know, if they decide to dissolve their merger, do they get any of their money back? That kind of thing. I think those are the issues that make a merger less stable if those issues are not spelled out beforehand and everybody knows exactly what to expect from the merger concerning the money. I think that's the biggest issue. The next issue with the counties, if they merge, is how do they do their LEPC reporting? How's that going to be taken care of? The LEPC plan, does the board county then have to include the merged county with their LEPC plan, which makes more sense to me, or should they still have a separate plan for that county? Those are the kinds of questions I think that are the most important to answer if the county is merged, because if they do merge, we want that to be a stable union. We want it to be able to continue for a long period of time. And everybody know what to expect from the beginning and or the end, right?
And then, so I was going to say, these are guidance documents. Obviously, the local LEPC, they will have their own county attorney, municipal attorney that would have to look over whatever agreement gets signed or whatever gets decided between the two counties. There is very little guidance for an LEPC as to what should be included in an agreement or what needs to be included in an agreement. And Melissa's objective was to kind of give a template that obviously would get changed up to be however it needed to be changed for the two counties on what their agreements are. And the agreements can be different. There are no set molds that have to be followed. And this way they at least can think about the potential issues that could arise and honestly, hopefully cut down on their billable hours by giving them a template.
Yeah. So Sean, would you say that from the IRC's perspective, it's more for us like a performance? We don't really care how the organization operates as long as they perform and meet their deliverables to the IRC. Would that be a correct
Yes.
statement? Okay, so
Yes.
we don't really need to get involved in how they handle their business at the county level. It would just be a statement of, in order for this arrangement to be acceptable, the plan has to be done. The meetings have to be held, fiscal reports have to be submitted, and all of those things. How they go about doing that, how they divide up the work, how they handle all that, as long as they get it done and it meets our requirements, then we would be okay. Is that a fair assessment?
I do think that we would have to have some kind of, I mean, I would have to have some kind of understanding of how we want them to do that, at least in Has Connect, because that's how I review the records. So,
Right, but if they said, okay, we'll just take, for instance, County A and County B. So County A says, we're the strong county. County B comes to us and says, we're going to merge with County A. And County A is going to do all the submissions in the Has Connect. They're going to do the hazmat plan. It's going to be them. And, we'll have people on this County A, County B, LEPC, but the County A will be doing the majority of the work. Otherwise, County B, we wouldn't have needed County A's help. And so County A is doing all those things. You understand that County A is doing all those things. And when those things aren't being done, you direct your messages to County A.
so I just think with Has Connect, we need to tell them what we want them to do. With Has Connect, either they don't make any reports for the county that merged, and only the board county is the only one that needs to make a record in Has Connect. Because if 10 or 15 counties end up merging, or 16, whatever, down the road, we don't want everybody doing something different. Because that would be for Has Connect. So just for Has Connect purposes at least, I believe the IERC needs to say, only the board county needs to make records in their Has Connect and include the other county in their LAPC plan.
Okay.
Or only they need to make reports in their county and then have a separate LAPC plan for each county. But you don't want to make them half of the reports for one county and half the reports in the other county, or,
Whenever we're,
just for Has Connect. For Has Connect
Whenever-
purposes, we need. to
whenever-
know them.
a checks are cut, do they get one check or are they getting two checks? Sean? You hear my
Right
question?
now, the funding formula and statute goes to each county. So they would have to have in their agreement to send the money to the county seat or whatever the
County chair.
county chair or county board is what they call it in the statute. So they would have to have in their agreement that they come up with how the money gets distributed. And I would assume the county board that was taking on the other counties' responsibilities would want the money from that county, but that's for them to decide how the money gets split out, because the formula right now in statute just goes to each specific county.
And this is just where I'd like to go with this, because we can't solve it today. There's a lot of things to think about. Is to look at this, what you've put together, and think about how to uncomplicate this thing. The law is 40 years old when it was instituted. And at that time, LAPCs were paid, is that? Or have they always been volunteer?
Always been volunteered with the option of a stipend,
Okay.
which was left up to the LEPC.
But anyway, we've got 92 counties of volunteer staff. Just like fire departments, I'll throw it out there. In the 1940s, volunteer fire departments were thriving and did okay. Volunteer help, if we moved into 2026, there's not as many volunteer firemen to do the job. My thing here, even with LAPCs, they're hard to find people that will volunteer this work. And so whatever answer we find here needs to be the absolute simplest and have some sort of standardized, because I think we can overcomplicate this thing way too much than what it needs to be. And any disputes about this money and all that needs to be at the local level, and for us not to get involved in 92 counties of disputes about they've merged and now they don't want to merge. What looks good now could be 2 counties. Later on, it could be 3 counties. We got fire departments that volunteer a whole county merging, you know. And this is one of the things that's difficult about anything that government does. The world changes in 50 years. The economy changes and it looks differently 50 years from now than what it does today. And a lot of systems don't grow with that. So let's just hold on to this right now, but honestly, look at it pretty hard and find out what is the simplest. Is this simple enough to make it work? Because once they decide we're going to dissolve this relationship with A and B, who wants to police that? They won't give me back my money, you know? I don't want to try to police that, you know?
Can I say really quickly, my solution, I know I'm not on the IRC, but the LAPC that is merging with another LAPC, which would become the board LAPC. I believe that they should actually transfer all of their funds that they hold to the board LAPC because they aren't actually supposed to be able to do anything with that money once they dissolve their LAPC, because you have to have an LAPC to make valid decisions about spending the money. So there is no point in holding that money. And the board LAPC should not ever be required to give any money back. Once the LAPCs decide to separate, because then you would basically be telling that LAPC, that board LAPC, they're never allowed to spend any of that money
Is
that
this,
came from
is
the
this
other
in your
LAPC.
document?
Huh?
Is this in your document that you've put together?
I don't know if I actually put that in here or
Okay.
not, but just, that's my
Well-
thought on it. And since I was doing this, I just wanted to very quickly mention this. Because usually when there's a dispute, when anybody merges, it usually, the main contention area point is usually money, right? So,
And money. Who's doing the work? Who's getting the money?
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that really quickly. And also one other thing, if a county that is not active, if the state is wanting them to merge with another county in the future, that process would also have to be worked out, because currently in the Indiana code, it says that an active LAPC and another active LAPC can merge. It does not say anything about a county that does not have active LAPC or chairperson or anybody to contact for that county.
Yeah,
Let's keep
but
that in mind.
I also want to go back to local rule. I don't want to tell a county what they have to do or what they're going to do at our level. If they don't have an LAPC, I don't want us as a state saying, this is what you got to do.
So just a kind of a question. I know once we put this together. So going back, are we seeing this as an IRC, kind of a IRC policy discussion? I mean, we don't really have a policy committee like we had in the past. Is that?
This would be like our recommendation, unless Sean has a better way, whatever terminology we want to put on it. But there should be a standardized way. We can give them the recommendations about how we believe it should happen. And, you know, as long as we get legal's approval is to go.
Right, we're talking about a kind of a thing that sits at the IRC policy level and not changing state code or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I mean, it's just, okay.
That's difficult to do, changing state code.
Right, yeah. So, but for us, I mean, just as kind of how we would recognize a merged LAPC would be kind of these little points that we've made. Again, we're not hearing what Sean and Chairman have said, not get into the minutia of their association or their agreement between each other, but at least have some high level, this is what it's going to look like. Maybe like to your point, there will be designated a lead Has Connect county. And that's the county that does all the Has Connect stuff, to keep it simple. And, yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I was hearing maybe that, you know, that county, that those companies in that county that is not County B, I mean, I think there should be something somewhere saying that County A just can't spend it all on County A. I mean, I think there should be some of that funding goes back to help County B. I mean, those firefighters, those response agencies in County B that, you know, are going to be the first in at a facility in County B if there's an incident. So again, you know, not to get into the weeds as to how the arrangements are written up, but and again, that's where you get into this, you know, like, well, we're doing all the work, yet you still, you know, the money that comes to the combined counties.
I think according to the Indiana code, and Sean can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but according to the Indiana code, the LAPC that takes on another LAPC becomes a board commission then, or a board, it's like a board committee, county committee commission. And they retain all of the responsibility for, I believe, the funds. I might be wrong on that, so maybe I should not say anything else. I'll let Sean answer that.
I'd have to look at the funding formula, but I don't believe it discusses the merging.
So what does the path forward look like? I mean, does it look like that, you know, we'll look at this and then when we get back together, I mean, do we need to set aside like a special time to just discuss this after we've had a chance to digest it and maybe get some information about, you know, what, you know, Sean kind of sees as maybe some very important elements of any kind of an agreement. And then, you know, Melissa's thoughts about, you know, things that for her end, definitely, I mean, the hazmat plan is a very important part and things that important deliverables that LEPCs have to meet. And then I don't know, is it possible maybe to talk to some other states and see if have they merged counties and how have they done that? I mean, do they have, I don't know. I mean,
Most of the other states I have spoken to when we've been at conferences and things, they don't. I don't know of any other state that actually is comparable to what we do. I think we have one of the best programs, probably at least in the Midwest. Just from speaking to people at conference and how they do their LEPCs and things.
okay.
So I don't know if we would be able to compare that or not.
Well, I was just thinking, you know, if another state,
Wyoming only has two regions. They do like east and west, because I did sit on their LAPC as a Red Cross person. And they don't even remotely do it the same way that we do.
well, and I don't know if it's still the same, Georgia or Florida, one of the two, I think Florida had regional LEPCs and Georgia, I think, had one LEPC. I mean, every state kind of created it how it wanted. I'm just curious, the states that, you know, like, I don't know, Michigan, they have county LEPCs. I was just curious if they have any process for counties that want to join, is what I'm saying. And if they do, maybe we can learn from.
So Michigan does theirs by, they have districts or regions. That's how they do theirs.
Oh, so it's not by county.
Sorry, what?
So it's not by county?
Is it? When the last CERC meeting that I was on, the
Okay.
gentleman from Michigan was talking about districts and regions. So if I do have it wrong.
Okay, no, that's
I
not,
apologize, so maybe I won't say anything. I thought they were doing theirs by districts.
Okay.
So, or regions, so.
but anyway, I mean, I guess the point was, you know, just talking to some other states that maybe if we know of states that do just counties similar to us, do they do, and they may say, no, it's too much of a headache. We don't want to do it. They, you know, if they want to have an LEPC, they get their act together. If they don't, then they just,
I can ask in the next CERC meeting.
okay.
Because we have a combined CERC meeting with, a lot of the states around here.
Okay.
So Michigan and Indiana and Illinois and Ohio and different states, so I can try to ask. more.
Okay, I mean, if it's, possible, it just might be helpful if somebody's already gone through this challenge of trying to figure out how to join LAPCs. Maybe we can,
Yeah, and again, I just think we need to take our document,
Mhm.
look it over and figure out what are those things that would be required for them to both have the understanding. And make it as simple as we can. I don't want to overcomplicate, because it's just simpler the better. All right, next thing on the agenda, discussion on URLs and the HMEP grant funding by Jeff Larmore.
yeah, so Melissa had reached out to me for some topic points, and we'll do the URLs first. That's, as I understand, the challenge right now is, across Indiana, and I think across the country, there just aren't as many local newspapers. And so it can create a problem for LEPCs that have to post their legal notice if there's no local newspaper in their community. And I'm assuming that, Allen County, Switzerland County, don't know them, don't want to pick on them, but if they don't have a local newspaper, I'm sure they don't want to be reaching out to the Indy Star to post their legal notice.
Yeah.
Right.
That goes back to my 40 years. The laws that we have are 40
Right.
years old on this.
So, the challenge is, LEPC, how do they do that legal notice? How do they post that, if there's no local newspaper? And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of ignorant on this, and I tried to do some learning, and, looking at like the information, the public open door policy, it sounds like even there's some requirements for the newspaper that you use to post your legal notice. I mean, it can't be like the Jones Gazette. It needs to be something that has a significant circulation. And so, again, how do we resolve that? How do we, because again, Sarah is very specific in what needs to be in the legal notice.
I've had this question from quite a few LEPCs. And it seems like it's getting to be more, because there have been more local newspapers just this last year, and I guess the beginning of this year even, that are shuttering their doors.
Right.
Going out of business, so.
Well, the intent is to notify the public, and if that's not a good
Right.
venue for doing that anymore, we gotta figure something else
Currently, the
that works for
requirement
those
says that it
communities.
Yeah.
and that online is not considered to be in print. And I think that's the major problem. I did ask Sean about this briefly. I don't know if he remembers or not. I don't know how the requirements could be changed in the future, but I thought a URL could possibly be an answer to this. And so, I know Marion County has got a URL. So I was just hoping Jeff would just explain how they.
So exactly. So I think it was one of these meetings, we heard that the state of Indiana offered website support development. And so we reached out to the person at the state who connected us to the contractor. And it was a very, I use the word easy, but I'll put it in quotes because somebody who's technically challenged with website with me was a little bit of a struggle, but I'll tell you, they did a lot of hand holding and they made it quite simple. And I'm very proud of the LEPC's website. It took us 30 odd years to get there, or 40 almost. But it is. And to Matt's point, I mean, we put that in the newspaper every year, and it's like it gets buried. It's published twice in the Indy Star. I can't believe anybody could find it. I had a hard time finding it to find it last night. And so if is a way that we can make a change so that if LEPCs could have a website, and for those that don't, those that already do, make it possible for them to just put that legal notice on their website. I think that's where people go now for information is to websites. I know, attorneys and so forth probably still pay people to scrutinize and go through the legal notices, but it just seems like, to Melissa's point, it's going to be more and more challenging each year for LEPCs to find a venue to post their legal notice, then, how do we deal with that when an LEPC says, say somebody up in the northeast part of the state, and it's like, well, we got to go to Allen County to get a paper that will post our legal notice for us, and we're 4 counties away. I mean, how is that meeting the needs?
The intent even.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when EPRA was written, legal notices were it. Yes, Mara.
Could they use the county EMA websites? Because DHS already has that set up for most of the counties, if not all. To post
That's critical for
their,
legal to answer, not
to post their LEPC notifications.
Stephanie, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, our newspaper, they cut down to,
Reading your minutes and calendar.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
so the newspaper here has cut back on most of the time they publish. And they put the LEPC notice in the information section, so it runs all the time. It's not in the legal notice. They didn't send me a bill. It has to go somewhere in Kentucky to get all that published, and it's a lot of work to try to get that done in the time necessary. So would that not pass for posting the legal notice?
It's a legal question.
I didn't hear, can you say that again?
The legal notice, it's the same legal notice I've used for years and years and years since I've been doing this in the early 2000s. It sometimes is posted in the legal notice, but the newspapers cut back. So the editor put it in the information section, which is like on the second page, and it's ran regularly of other meeting notices. So would that not be the same as a legal notice? It's passed for years before, but since there's new people in the office, it's, I'm not getting by with it.
You mean the newspaper's not letting you put the legal notice there?
No, Melissa has issues with it.
Okay, well, that sounds like a question we should probably submit, so we can look at that specific situation.
Apparently says it has to be in print. Online's not the same as printed paper. It's what have been told since I started working here.
Well, there was a law change in 2024 regarding the legal notices, and some situations allowed to be digital instead of in print. So I think we need to look at her specific situation.
Yeah, that law change was for IDEM, I believe. It allowed their commission, I think it allowed IDEM to post things on their website as opposed to viewing the legal notice. Is that what you're referring to?
There was a bill in 2024 that involved state agencies and local government entities.
This is in print. It just, I don't pay for it to be in the back and fine print. It's in print on the second page where they announce other meetings.
Right. Okay, we can have our legal team look into that in our next meeting, kind of clear it up for people.
to kind of go back to the original question, so I see two things, one with this question. If we're talking about the SARA required information for the legal notice, which is where can the public come and see tier 2 reports? Where can they see the hazmat plan? Where can they see all those things that are specifically mentioned in SARA? That does say legal notice. And then the other is the LEPC meetings themselves, which is more of this open door kind of thing, using legal notice to tell people when we meet, where we meet, what time. And so, but again, it just seems like the legal notice in the paper is a bygone practice. And is there any way that we can somehow allow the LEPCs to utilize other means to satisfy that requirement? Whether it's an EMA website or LEPC creates a website, or even IDHS, I don't know, you know,
Yeah,
the IRC have a,
difficult because again, 92 counties have 92 different types of resources they could do.
yes,
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing about trying to put anything out of all the different types of answers to how they get this out that meets the law requirement. You know, the changing of Indiana law doesn't keep up with the changing times. That it's just flat out, you know, this isn't the only part of government that has this. Part of every organization that has to put out a legal notice has the same situation. And I think it's a bigger question on how to answer it than just this commission. The state of Indiana needs to address it, because every organization and government that has to post things has the same difficulty.
that said, if an LEPC comes and says, we don't have a paper, we don't have a newspaper anywhere, there's no way we can post this in a legal notice. Do we as a board have the option to say, okay, in the absence of a newspaper, and they can demonstrate to us whatever it needs, would we be able to say, then post a notice on the front of the county office, county headquarters?
I don't think we have that legal authority because we can't change Indiana law. I'd put it in the hands of an attorney somewhere, or they're a county attorney. That's to answer it. This commission can't change what that law says. I know you can't do this, but you can do this instead. I don't think that, I don't.
So how do we, when it comes time to spend the money or to approve the funding for these LEPCs, and they've done everything, but they're deficient in the legal notice because they weren't able to submit an affidavit showing that the legal notice was posted or published twice in their local newspaper? Do we not give them money, or do we say, you know?
Sean, what do you recommend?
Well, I would say, you guys can always give them the money. That is up to you. That I would say you would probably want to do a case by case basis when it comes to that type of issue. I mean, as we did last year, there's ones that are probably close to fulfilling all the requirements. Some that fill all the requirements, and we chose to fund everybody. So it's, again, up to you guys, your discretion to fund the counties. I think if they show good faith in trying to get that done, then that's something that you guys get to consider when it's your turn to make the funding choice.
Right, and that's all I was trying to say is, how do we characterize good faith? I mean, and so, I agree. And
That's
it's
the only thing. Good faith is you don't have the ability. There you go.
Right.
You know, I don't want to make, again, I believe in trying to make things as easy as we can for the locals. And this may be something that the law that you just can't do. I'm not going to withhold the money. It's like, here's your money. You know, and I can't hear and say something else is okay when the law says this. I don't have the authority. The Indiana state law has to change. I don't have the authority to say it's okay, but we do have the authority to say, okay, here's your money. Make it easy.
And that's, I was just trying to somehow characterize or kind of identify what constitutes good faith. So we're not looked at as being favorable to one county versus another, but if it's best left open and it's just a matter of presenting the information to us and us deciding whether they made a good faith effort, then I'm fine with that.
The issue is the Indiana code right now says that it has to be in print.
I bet not everybody can do that. So we'll just give them the money. I can't change the law.
But if the LEPCs could get a URL, then anybody can look it up online by the county and be able to find, Marion County LEPC and get that information. So it would be easily and readily available if each of the LEPCs had a URL. And it would be a standardized approach to it, but
Well, maybe this could be a discussion about how we do that later on. Again, we can't solve that today.
Okay.
Sounds like a great legislative issue for DHS.
That's higher than me. It's just not a DHS issue, Again, we got a lot of old laws on the books. People can't adhere to them because times have changed and laws don't.
We
And
can't buy beer on Sundays now.
yeah, we can.
So,
After,
yes, after.
Those things change, but this has been just as old.
don't go too early.
All right, next on the agenda, the HMEP grant funding.
Yeah, so as I was going back and forth with Melissa, and I prefaced my first comments with Melissa was with the fact that LEPC, the legal fund, the money that we collect from the facilities is flat, and we understand for so many reasons why the likelihood of increasing tier 2 fees is not going to happen, at least in the near future. So LEPCs continue to be kind of pressed with increasing costs for training and exercises. And so with our income flat and increasing costs, LEPCs have to, if they want to continue to provide training and do all these things for their local first responders, they've got to get real creative in terms of finding additional funding. And HMEP is certainly an excellent source of funding for LEPCs to help boost training and exercises and planning. And I was just curious if the IRC felt like it may be something that maybe we should get and take a closer look at in how the HMEP grants are being awarded, and do they align with protecting or provide improving preparedness in our communities, whether it's the public that might be exposed, the first responders, just to make sure that the funding is that the money is going to the right places. And I know this is a challenge because you don't want to say, well, Marion County, we've got all these interstates coming through and we got the trains and stuff, do they get more than say a county that maybe doesn't have any interstates or any exposure to transportation related incidents? It's just something to look at. I mean, again, it's just as LEPCs have to tighten the belt and, is there value in looking at what we're funding? I know commodity flow studies are one of the allowed expenses in HMEP. And I only know this because I was talking to a county adjacent to Marion who did get HMEP money for a commodity flow study. And when I heard how much the commodity flow study was going to cost, it really kind of took me away because it's expensive. In fact, it almost, I think, maxed out the award. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot of money and what is the return on that? I mean, does it really help bolster preparedness? Does it really help the community versus, other things? So I don't know. I don't want to be rambling, but I just was curious about, maybe it's time to take a look at the HMEP grant process. I know we're as an IRC, we're not really involved in making decisions about who gets funded, what projects get funded. But I would be curious to see, how, what projects say got funded for last year, what the amounts were. And again, just looking at the whole idea of all of this is to make Indiana better prepared for hazardous materials incidents, and just to see if everything is aligning the way that, maybe the IRC would like to think that it does. I don't know.
Jeff, are you wanting like a list in the future of like people who submit for the HMEP grant and
I think, just looking at
applicants?
when IDHS makes the awards, I think it would be interesting to the IRC to see what was funded, what the costs were. I mean, I'm not saying that the IRC makes those decisions. I'm just saying, let's take a look at what kind of projects are being asked for, how much those projects are costing, and then as a body, look at and say, wow, that's a lot of money, or wow, could that have been, again, is it meeting our mission to, at the end of the day, make sure that our first responders that are responding to these incidents are adequately trained. LEPCs, we use our monies to buy equipment, PPE, for the first responders. I mean, LEPCs don't have enough money to outfit an entire hazmat team, but we do things. We try to leverage the money that we have, buying sensors or cow gas, or maybe replacing, whatever is affordable to us. So again, just kind of in hindsight, seeing where it's going, to say, wow, that looks really good, or wow, do we really need, so many counties doing hazmat IQ, or so many counties doing commodity flow studies? Or, I mean, I always think that there's opportunities to leverage the money. I mean, we always tried in District 5, when any one county hosted a training, we didn't want any open seats to go unused, and we would, tell people in the other counties, if you want to send somebody. I mean, we've had IDEM come to our trainings and stuff. And so that's all I don't know that I've ever seen the IRC look at this in all my years I've been involved with the IRC. So, but again, I don't want it to be coming across that the IRC makes the decision about how the HMEP grants are awarded. I understand that's their process.
There are two separate groups administering funds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can talk to see, because everything gets scored that they do. I don't know what the process is, but if you wanted, I can see if they want us to help us to understand how they score things.
Yeah.
And one thing is just, it's easy to see and start comparing, they got this, but they didn't get anything. And I don't want to get caught up in that, because that's not our job as the IRC,
Our job as the IRC, though, I think, is to make sure the state of Indiana is prepared. And I think if we give money that's not helping to prepare, then, I mean, I was at an IRC meeting where maybe one or two counties expressed how they didn't get HMEP money, and they felt like they were cheated. And again, it's tough. Money is always, a challenge. And again, it's tough decisions to be able to say, you didn't get money because you're not important, but what you were proposing maybe didn't add value to the preparedness. And that's what we're looking at. I mean, and that's just one person's, that's just, my opinion. And again, I'm just, the step, I think the beginning step is to just take a look and see what projects are being funded, how much is, goes into that. And for the IRC to look at it and say, yeah, I mean, that seems legitimate. I mean, we've got great representation from state police and IDEM, and to kind of look together and say, you guys are out there on the street and, working a hazmat incident, is there things that the departments that you interact with could be better schooled in or would be
The
helped?
only thing I want to make, and I'll talk to legal or whatever. I want to make for sure that we're operating within the scope of what the IERC should be getting involved in. I don't want to take another state agency and start trying to judge whether they're making good judgments in the work that they're doing.
Well, I guess my question is,
Yeah.
how do they have I mean, how are they, what criteria are they using?
There's scoring that they use, and I think they could come and explain the scoring and how they judge and the scoring based upon, because right now, I don't know how they score them, but now I think it'd be worth finding out how things get scored,
Yeah, that would
You
be
know.
helpful.
how things get scored and then how they make those allocations. I just want to make for sure we're staying within the purview of what the Indiana Emergency Response Commission should be doing. I don't want to try to say one part of state government isn't allocating their money the way they need to.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I look at the IRC as hazardous materials is our lane. I mean,
But those grants, unless somebody corrects me,
that HMBP grant is hazardous materials.
yes, but does it fall under the purview of this commission? That's my question.
Right, but what I'm saying is if the body that is making the decisions about funding or the choosing of the projects does not understand hazardous materials, then I don't see how whatever scoring they're using is, I mean, how do they know that a hazmat class? I guess I'm just, yes, sir.
If I'm allowed to speak, I have a little bit of insight. Myself and the other two hazmat specialists sit with the grants people once they've made a short list, so to speak, and they go over each individual item, each individual class, and we tell them if that, yes, this is hazmat related, yes, this is something for training. No, this is just equipment, which is not allowed. It has to be equipment for training or going to a training class. So it does go through, myself and the other two hazmat specialists sit in with the grants people when this is done.
Then I would ask, well, why not IDEM? Why not include IDEM in that group of three or state police?
I just want to, I guess I'll stop this discussion now because I want to make sure the IERC stays in its lane.
Okay, no, I agree.
You know, I don't think there's a problem with us asking how they get scored, but I don't want to go to another state agency and tell them they're not allocating correctly. That's not within our purview.
Okay.
So we can discuss later. I want to make for sure we stay in our lane.
No, and I agree, and I understand that. And my point back to Melissa was just, it is a lot of money. It is money that LEPCs thankfully can get to help them bolster what their mission. And so any more we can find out about it, appreciate it.
For inviting people to sit in on this meeting. I don't know that they have not ever invited IDEM or who exactly they invite. I usually sit in on the meetings as well. And I know that they are always interested in knowing who is being compliant, also with their LEPC reports. And, sometimes that weighs on the decision as well as to who gets the HMAP grant.
Oh, it should. I mean,
So-
yeah, an LEPC that is not compliant probably shouldn't be eligible.
Not gonna say who, but we had an LAPC that is choosing not to be active because they have said that they don't have any facilities with the EHS in their counties. They don't see any need to be active. And so they don't need any LAPC money for exercises or anything like that. But yet they're wanting to get HMO grant money for exercises. So for hazmat exercises. So that doesn't make any sense.
No, I agree.
So
So these invites that go out, is it possible for members of the IRC to get invited to sit in these meetings where all these things are being discussed? I just throw that out there.
And, the grants department are the ones who are responsible for giving the grants, and they set their own criteria as to what they need and who they want to hear from to be able to get those grants. So I think, I mean, that really falls in their
Sure.
department.
And we'll,
So-
And that's.
we'll go with the chairman.
It's in their, in the purview, okay? And I don't want to speak, and I don't want us to speak about what another state agency is doing. And that's where, you know, maybe, and we can move on to the next one is maybe if we still intending on having it extended to see if someone would come and explain at the next day meeting how they score them.
That would be, I think, very helpful.
Because I don't want to make us anticipate there's already problems in the process. And I've taken the calls too, where people were upset that they didn't get it, you know, and I get it, you know. And they did get it 2 times in a row, and I feel for them, because funding is hard in our industry. Our public safety is expensive. That's the highest expense of any government, whether it's a state agency or the local agency, is public safety.
Sure.
It is the most expensive, and I've told everybody, and I tell everywhere we go, every day in the state of Indiana, there's 8,000 emergency runs. There's not a time sirens are silent in the state of Indiana. It's an expensive business, you know, and grants make a difference. And unfortunately, in my own personal opinion, we shouldn't have to get grants to provide public safety. The funding should already be there. That's, you know, and we've gotten by spoon feeding people with grants. And we have people who can't provide public safety because they don't have the funds. It's an expensive business. So we can get on to the next thing, an all-day meeting, and I'll just put it up and see if someone will come, if we do that meeting, or at the next meeting to just come and spend 10 minutes telling us how these things get scored in the process.
I think that'd be helpful.
You know, because it's just us getting information will help us understand the process on how that gets done.
Right.
And I think they would help, you know, see how that gets done. And are we still interested in kind of a half day or a extended meeting the next time around?
I mean, I am. I'm all for talking and talk. I mean, setting enough time aside to have a good conversation.
Yeah, I want to, this is just suggestion, maybe not an all-day meeting, but a longer meeting, you know? We could start early and maybe move to 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We can figure something out about lunch, you know, whether we throw our money in together and have it catered. Because, you know, the topics, you know, in most of these commissions, there's a lot to talk about across the state of Indiana. And we only meet for a certain amount of time sometimes, getting the additional information so we can do our job well. So is there any topics that anybody wants to throw out there that are willing to kind of do some research to talk about in the state if we're going to have an all-day meeting?
Do we have an idea of how many, I mean, where our hazmat teams are and what type of hazmat team they are? I mean, I think that's always
You want? Sorry. Okay, I was gonna say, our hazmat people have a pretty good handle on where our hazmat teams are, but they could present it if you guys wanted to.
well, I mean, I think that's,
Even have a list on the database or on the state server for each region.
and is that kept up to date? I mean, is it like every so often you just make contacts around or?
We know which hazmat teams are active.
Okay,
Hazmat teams don't fade away very much. We've had some that got close, but we're able to find some funding and we're able to stay alive. I mean, like the marshal said, we're in an expensive business, but yes, sir, we do have a database.
because I mean, I think one of the things, at least for me, my role in the IRC is like, you know, where our responders are. I mean, you think about, again, the East Palestines and, you know, it's like, you know, this happens. I mean, what does a response look like? I mean, where is the robust hazmat resource going to come from? And, again, it's just, are there areas where, maybe there are teams that are filling a void, but they're not really appropriately, they don't have what all the training they could use or all this they could use, and they're filling a huge geographical area. And it's like, is that something in the long run we should look at trying to fix so that we don't have these pockets in Indiana where there just isn't anything for hours? And I don't know, I'm just speaking hypothetically, but that to me is kind of something that helps me to understand what we're doing. Again, looking at it from a facilities perspective, facilities, they call 911 and they expect a type A hazmat team at their doorstep in 15 minutes, and they're in a rural part of wherever. And it's like, you don't understand, that's not going to happen. Marion County or Indianapolis Fire is still running, into Shelby and Morgan and Hendricks
A
and
lot of hazmat teams are, especially in the southern part of the state.
Okay, without getting into
Yes, sir.
or what we're going to talk about in
right.
detail, would you be willing, and just to kind of go over the different types of hazmat
Absolutely.
teams and where they are in the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't want to go ahead and have that discussion here. Let's discussion that day. What other topics? Just a side note, which is kind of, this is the way, and people don't get it, but they need to start getting it. Our services, the way we deliver them, is ever changing. Again, we're talking about the tier 2 stuff, 4 years old. Indiana Fire Service, same way. We've got fire departments merging all over the state of Indiana. We recently, the fire departments around Fort Wayne formed one large department around Fort Wayne, which is the second largest landmass now protected by one fire department around Fort Wayne. Hazmat's going to be the same way, because now we may get a new hazmat team out of this that we didn't have before. 50 years from now, when I'm dead and gone, we'll still be here talking about how the different assets within our state keep moving and things. But I think it's worth noting those fire departments merging with Indiana is happening everywhere. What else?
Is it appropriate to talk about tier 2 fees? Is that, a strategy, a plan, that, is there a
We've talked about it, but this is our difficulty. We can't go to the state legislature and ask for more fees for more money. But at least who's going to present it? I can't from my level. There's got to be a state legislature. And in my view, you've got to have the industry submit it themselves. We need the chemical industry to see the benefit, to be the one to get a hold of the state legislature to say, hey, right now you're paying, was it $250?
They pay either $50, $100, or $200
Lily's paying $200 for this fee's laughable, right? And we've got another mom and pop place that's paying the same amount as Eli Lilly, multi-billion. I need Lily's to take something to the legislature.
Okay.
I think they would see benefit, because we need the money at the boots on the ground level. But until,
Well, it sounds like that's a conversation maybe. How do we, we have industry representatives on this body. And if we can get industry representatives to come to our all day to have a discussion about does industry have an appetite? Is industry willing to support? And would industry be willing to do what you just said, in the sense of be the initiator of, we want to be able to call 911 and have a properly trained, adequately equipped hazardous materials response team to come when we have a situation. And so we have a vested interest in having, so we would support increasing funding. If we only made modest increases. It would be,
$4.50. You know,
yeah, I mean, it's just, and maybe industry would come back and say, you're right. I mean, we'll plug in the numbers and here's what we think is a different, maybe way of looking at it, a different tiered system, because you're right, it does seem a little
there's a donation jump.
challenge that somebody that, it's so compressed. If you got all the stuff in the world, you're paying 200. And if you've got just barely broke 50 and the difference between the two is $150, it seems, yeah, like, so again, maybe between now and when we set this meeting up, we can talk to Sean, and I'm not sure who else is our industry people now, but to see if that would be something, he would be willing to champion in terms of a discussion to say, yeah, I mean, there used to be responsible care. I don't know if they still exist. Unfortunately, Marion County, Indianapolis, we used to have industry partners for safety awareness. And like Steve said, with all the volunteering and all that kind of going away, they're not around anymore. And so, but anyway, if that's the purpose of the lengthier meeting, is to talk about things that generally we don't have time for. And again, I can't think of anything that's more important right now, is to trying to figure out how we can provide more resources to the LEPCs.
I could potentially, I think Oregon is similar in size to us in terms of the number of facilities. I think about the last NASPO conference I attended maybe about a year and a half ago, they did increase their fees. I don't know how much it was prior to that, but they have probably at least 7,000 facilities, and now they collect over $1 million in fees total. So that could be, or I could try to.
Well, I like the
connect with
chairman's
them and
idea. I
see.
think I hadn't thought about it, but our next LEPC meeting in or April, we'll probably put a jar out by when people sign in.
Well, it's just, again, it's just hard because to get anything on the books, it takes a lot of work to get it there. And usually you just don't get it out there on your first push during the legislative session. You'll get kicked back your first time out, and it's a gradual educational push, but it's going to take industry and lobbyists, which I have neither one, to get that done. So.
No, I agree. And I understand it takes time. And so it's like, is this a good time to start the conversation? If not now, then it'll be later, but.
Because I don't know how Oregon does it, but I think Ohio, they charge their reports based on how many chemicals they're inputting in their report, whereas we just do, you have to reach a certain threshold, this is the amount you pay.
I think Ohio, there's some facilities that pay.
I think Ohio might pay like $20 or $25 per chemical that's on their reports, and they probably have, the certain threshold they meet too, but.
But again, like I say, like Melissa pointed out, every state kind of does their own thing. And so I'm not trying to go from zero to yeah, but anyway, so if we're tossing out ideas, that's just one of my ideas.
That HMAP grants, hazmat team locations and capabilities throughout Indiana. Increased fees, and also per merging counties. Merging counties is going to be a topic. Anything else?
This is Bruce Palin. I'm wondering if we might want to revisit what we are requiring of the LEPCs. You've talked about many times, keep it simple. And sometimes I think one of the reasons we have some LEPCs dropping out is because there's so many requirements they have to comply with. Or there may be specific ones that they have to comply with, they find very difficult to do. And maybe that's something we should reassess or get some feedback from some of them on what are their thoughts on what makes their job more difficult as far as the reporting angle. And is there another way of doing that we could simplify that process?
Is there anything that we are requiring them to report that state statute doesn't require them to report?
For the LEPCs? I don't
Yes.
think so.
I think maybe, and I don't want to put words in Bruce's mouth, but, things like the rostered members. We elected officials. We're supposed to have elected officials on our roster.
Well, it's actually supposed to be local or state government, I believe, according to the Indiana code is.
Well, and that's too, because you look at EPCRA and you look at things, and last night I was like, one says hospitals, one doesn't mention hospitals, but I think one of the things is with the rostered members, it's like, it's becoming a little bit of a challenge, like the media, local media, to get a true media person to sit on your LEPC, for us has always been a challenge. And so again, I think maybe I don't know, if Bruce can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe we're looking at, can we do things to make it easier for LEPCs to have rosters? And again, we're talking about probably making some code changes, because the code says you got to have these 12, and this is, like,
That's what I was gonna say, is it's in the Indiana code.
right. But again,
List out
but is it a start? I mean, this is a conversation about, what can we do to make it easier for LEPCs to have meetings with quorums? I mean, if you are, I was told, well, just put somebody there for media, whether it's a media person or not. And it's like, okay, then if that's the case, why not just say you just need 12 people? That's all.
And I think that goes back again to like the legal notice and all of that, where some of these requirements are kind of changing because our world is changing place. And people who are doing online content, they're also media, aren't they? Or do we consider them to be media or not?
What's that?
People who are doing online content, for the internet. So could they count as media because they're online, does that?
And I'm just gonna say,
What's our
I've got
contemporary definition?
92 counties, all these people. If they're trying, I'm gonna give them the money,
Right.
because there's this Indiana state law, there's parts of it they can't meet. But that's something we can just, I guess, talk about generally. Are there ways that we can help LEPCs? So anybody want to take that up? So I don't want to have to be the only one talking that day.
I mean, Bruce had the idea. I mean, Bruce, would you be willing to?
I'll do some exploration into that, and probably what I would propose to do is actually talk to some of the LEPCs and find out from them. They're the ones, there's no sense changing something if they're like, oh, that's no big deal. But if there's things that are really troublesome, like things that Jeff's mentioned that keep coming up, then why don't we take a hard look at changing, even if it means making a statutory change? And I understand not having lobbyists and what have you, but I think there can be some changes made. Particularly, you can find someone to support things, particularly if with this administration, if you're lessening the requirements or making it easier for folks to do things, I would think there'd be some general administrative support for that. So I'll be glad to do some investigation, see what I might be able to come up with as far as specific recommendations. And
All right, thank you.
mhm.
I mean, I'll be willing to speak on some of the things that I brought up. I mean, it's only fair. I wasn't expecting somebody else to
Yeah.
make the idea that have somebody else do the work. So Melissa, just let I don't know. Myra from IDEM, I mean, your folks are out there responding to incidents and working with folks. Anything from your guys', or maybe go back and talk to your team and say, what would be.
My teams actually, they go out to, they go to the LEPC meetings and district meetings. So they do a lot of outreach with them. So whenever they do have those meetings and they are able to, if they have the time to, they'll go out and talk to them. So I'll make it on the, I'll talk to them and have them ask, the LEPCs and be like, well, what are your pinch points when it comes to meeting the requirements? I mean, that's not an issue. I can ask them.
Okay.
So I can help Bruce pull in some information from some of the LAPCs.
What does the state police want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should ask the state police if they would be interested in doing commodity flows. They're on the roads every day. They've got cameras in their vehicles. And I honestly, what I was thinking when we were talking about this, because it's been years since we've done one, is like with all the sophistication and the cameras on the interstates and stuff, wouldn't it be possible just to like ping NDOT and say, hey, can you just like randomly just like, because that's all we're doing with these studies is randomly we're putting somebody at a location and they're just looking at placards. And it's like, gosh, it'd be great if I could get NDOT on 465 or 69 or whatever, just say, could you send me like 3 hours?
They don't record
I know, yeah, that's the thing. How much would
on
it cost?
purpose.
Okay,
Well, it's actually, it's an open records request.
got it.
Because
Okay.
then they have to not only store that, but then they have to respond to open record requests. And guess what? Every insurance company for the 8,000 crashes we worked in Metro Indianapolis, guess what the insurance companies would be looking for?
Good point.
We've been down that road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Unintended consequences. Anything else?
They've got the money to do it. I will say that about it. If anybody's got the money, your budget's with a B, not an M.
So you want to, what time is this meeting scheduled to start, the next one?
The next meeting,
Yeah,
At 1:30.
it will start at the same time, 1:30.
so do we want it to start like at 9?
It's on, I believe it's May 11th.
We probably have to check with Maid here to make sure the room is available.
So the plan would be we would have this lengthy meeting in the morning and then we would break for lunch and then have our IERC meeting in the afternoon.
Is it gonna be here at Maid or do we need to find a different venue? Do we need to have catering?
Oh, I don't want to go through that hassle.
I'm fine pitching in.
As tight as everybody is on money, I hate to go ask them. I ask them for a lot of other stuff, I get denied. I don't want to just go up, can I have money for food now?
What day is the next meeting?
May 11th. Yeah, we would have to double check with the staff here to make sure this room is available during that time.
And this meeting would be publicly announced and the public can attend, correct?
It'll be on the,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Morning, Marshall.
yeah, I mean, anytime we meet, they're open, so.
I'm just trying to think if this room is a good sized room, but do you think you think we'd have more people coming if for this lengthier meeting? Think about a different size room or,
The only time I've seen it get big is during the hazmat conference
okay.
in terms of the public coming.
See, my preference would be half of one of the big rooms downstairs.
Okay.
That way, if we do half and we show us presentations with a PowerPoint, we won't be stumbling over each other.
You want like the room immediately, maybe downstairs?
No, the big room, just half of it.
Conference, that would be room where the
Yeah,
holiday party takes place.
yeah. All right. All right. Anybody sign up for any public comments? Do I have any?
I just got one in case you're not tracking, and I don't know, maybe Russ, maybe you are, but there is no Emory conference this year.
Oh, really?
Rick is,
Midwest?
there's no Midwest Hazmat Conference this year. Rick posted on his website that due to some cost increases and some challenges, last year was it. They thought this year was going to be it, but because of these challenges, he's put on his website that they're done.
Brighter side, the Indiana Hazmat Conference that we hold here every year, still.
Right, and that, I didn't know, have a conversation, now that we've lost that close opportunity, if there's ways that we can support, bolster the Indiana conference, because I know we would send usually 8 to 10 people. Because it was cheaper to send them to Midwest than it was to send them to Baltimore. And so, again, all the more reason to try to take advantage of the iHammer conference, because like I say, Midwest is done.
So see if if they have it starting from 9 till 2,
9 to 2. Okay.
9 to 2. And then we'll send that out and confirm it once you've confirmed it. No public comments? All right, the next meeting pending approval will be at 9, we'll run at 9 to 2. Rick made. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second. Roll.
Steve Jones,
Yes.
Matt Wells,
Yes.
Stephanie McKinney,
Yes.
Matt Hilke,
Yes.
Jeff Larimore,
Yes.
John French. John French, Bruce Palin,
Yes.
Aaron Sims,
Yes.
Travis Touchane,
Yes.
Myra McShane.
Yes.
Meeting's adjourned, everybody.
Thank you.
What time do you have to
Thanks,
be in Fort
everyone.
Wayne? What time do you have to be in Fort Wayne?
7:15.